Yeah. So by the time this airs, if it airs on the same day, people will be seeing 2 new songs from Dance Gavin Dance that we put out, that we recorded as a 4-piece together. I won't comment too much on the breakup itself or the separation with Tilian. I genuinely have nothing but respect for Tilian as an artist and as a person. I had about a decade of making music with that guy that was very inspiring. He taught me a lot about myself, a lot about touring and vocals. And I mean, I owe a lot to him as an individual. And I am grateful for the time that we got to spend together making music. But the reality is that those statements are correct. We've always been authentic with that. We stand by everything that we've gone through as a band, and the band itself's been a band for, almost 20 years at this point. And the core of that band's always been John, Matt, and Will, always from the jump. And I think that they've been through so much in their career, and they've been able to accomplish so much that everybody else is kind of just along for the ride. And as much as I really liked a lot of the creative space that we were getting into with DGD, with between me, Tilian, and John, and just kind of the stride that we were hitting, we just had our first top 10 Billboard charting record. Like, none of the other internet bullshit stalled us at all from a professional standpoint. Like, people should know that. I'm not afraid to fucking say that. Like, we had our most successful tour, our most successful numbers after all of that shit happened. And that's the reality. It's inarguable. It's hard data. That shit didn't stall us at all. It only made us bigger, if I'm being straight with you. And that success was fantastic. It's been a way that we've all been able to pay our bills for a while, and we don't take it for granted at all. But there is a balancing act of, like, what makes you happy making music, and what are you willing to compromise for the payout that you get when you play it. And we had just reached a point creatively, I think, between the band and Tilian, where we all felt like it was a pretty amicable time to part ways creatively. And that was outlined in both of the statements. So I'm not saying anything that's like outside of those statements. I think that those are very direct. They're very authentic and honest. We really did all try to make things work as best as we could, but there just came a period where the 3 core members specifically felt that it was time to try something new. And the reality of where it goes, because you see what happens when something like that gets announced. Obviously, people speculate, and they'll say
former members comment.
Sure, absolutely, right. And there's speculation from people, they don't talk to Johnny, or they blah 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 blah. I like Johnny. I've had nothing but good times with Johnny personally. I don't care what people say about him. I think Johnny is a phenomenal singer. I think he's obviously one of the best singers I've ever worked with. He's inspired me. I'm almost a decade younger than him, and he has inspired me as a vocalist tremendously to work hard and to continue to persevere. And every time I toured with him, it's been a great experience. I like Johnny. However, when it comes to the band itself, like, the thing that people don't realize is people online treat us like we're cartoon characters. Like, we're not really human beings. Like, we don't feel, or we don't, think through some of these things. They just treat us like fucking animals a lot of the time. And so it gives them free reign as, like, anonymous people to just talk shit and say whatever they want, and to degrade anybody in that conversation. And the role is fairly cursed, I would say. I had this conversation with you last time where I specifically said I never wanted that position ever. And that still has some truth to it. The reality is, when you get approached by these members of your band that you've built and you've helped build for the last 10 years of your life, you've invested all this time and all this devotion to, and this is happening, and they ask you specifically, they say, we don't want to work with anyone else. We want to work with you. We would like John to take on a bigger role in the group. We would want, to kind of forefront John, almost like he's the lead, and write some heavier music around this, and then have you step up from your already, the position you're already performing in as a third vocalist and guitar player of the band, to continue writing guitar, continue writing songs, but also step into the clean vocal spot. And we don't really want to work with anybody else. We'd really like for you to give it a shot. And so what do you do in that situation? You tell those guys that you respect you've respected their process for over a decade, 2 decades of listening to their music and being a part of building that. And you just tell them, nah, just tell them no. I couldn't do that. When they asked me to step up and try, that's what I wanted to do. And we collectively decided, we said, okay, well, we're on contract for all this stuff. We have all of this material waiting. The band is a business. Like, we are functioning we have families to feed. Will's having a baby. By the time this comes out, will likely have his first child. Right. And this is all of our livelihood. So we can't just completely scrap all of the plans that we have and not record anything. We have to at least try with the crew that we have here, respectfully, and at least do a couple of songs and see where we're at, and see if we can do a couple songs and a tour with us, the crew that we know and love, the people that we get along with the most, the people that we enjoy making music with the most. Say, fuck the noise, fuck the haters. Let's just make music that we want to make together. And I trust their opinions as well. If I was putting down stuff that they didn't like, they would tell me. When I went in to do these 2 songs, there were a couple things to keep in mind here, right? I think a lot of people judge my voice in comparison. Obviously, there's always comparison between Johnny, Kurt, Tilian, and myself. There's no way you're going to eliminate that conversation. However, a lot of things people don't take into consideration when they're judging me filling in on some of the Tilian songs is, not only had my best friend just died, my best friend had just died, completely emotionally distraught by that. All this crazy shit was happening. I had multiple other family members pass away. I had another friend commit suicide in that same time frame. And a lot of people forget I actually had vocal surgery that same year. Most people just completely don't even realize. I had to have reconstructive vocal surgery that same year. And the tour that we had done was thrown together very last minute. So I had a bunch of funerals to attend to, very limited time to rehearse this stuff, coming off of a vocal surgery recovery. And so I really did my best, the best that I could. And some people enjoyed it and some people didn't. And that's fair. To judge my complete vocal talent off of that, I think is disingenuous. And I think that by lumping me in by that, without those considerations, not making excuses, but not taking the totality into account, I think is not a representation of what I can do as a vocalist. And I think I've been able to show that through Eidola tours that are more recent, as well as the new Eidola record that was been put out. The other thing that I've been doing is once I was done with that tour, I hired a vocal coach that I've been working with specifically for the last 6 or 7 months. That's been working with me particularly on my high register for this reason and this reason in particular, right? Working on my high register and specifically trying to develop that for this type of task. Now, is this permanent? I don't know. We're still working through that. We wanted to highlight John, do the best we could to make 2 standout songs. There's no record that's been recorded. There's no permanent decision making at all. This was the 4 of us wanted to do two great songs together and do a tour with the 4 of us that really paid homage to all of our back catalog, really pulling out stuff that we couldn't really do during the Tilian era. that we couldn't agree on. Now we're more in agreement on some of the older material that we want to pull back. I've been working my ass off to try to do all of those songs justice, and including the Tilian material, and be able to present the best foot forward for the band, and at least until we figure out what's next, right? At least until we figure out what's next. If we didn't have a lot of time to vet another third singer, a front man, clean singer that could take on that duty to share with John and I, and do something that we felt was creatively in the same ballpark. But what we could do is make songs we felt like were authentic to us, film a visual that we felt like was authentic to us, and then do a tour that we felt would be the best way to bring in new fans into the fold. And so again, who knows if this is permanent? I would take it with a grain of salt and just enjoy the music that gets put out by these individuals that collaborate with all of these different pieces. To me, that's so inspiring as a musician, to see a band that's always willing to collaborate. We have Martin from Secret Band that's going to be coming on doing guitars. He's done some of the guitars for the new songs, as well as he's going to be our touring guitarist for the time being. So to me, it's more of like a Secret Band plus type scenario for at least the time being, at least seeing, doing these two songs as a band and putting our best foot forward with these two songs, and then feeling out what the next step is. Right. I think that's kind of where we're at as a band, and I'm really excited to be a part of it. I am always super grateful for the band supporting me in that process. That's been incredible. I obviously, again, never wanted this role, so to speak, but in my opinion, I'm not like in the role. I'm literally just participating in a band in a very similar capacity that I already was participating in, and trying to help it flourish and continue to be a band and continue to put out art that I think it inspires people, and hopefully reaches those different ears. And there's always going to be hate, no matter what you do. Unfortunately, there's always going to be gossip and haters and people trying to tear you down. That's unfortunate. I do hope that anybody who doesn't like my voice for whatever reason, whether they think it's generic or boring, or they don't think I'm a good fit, I don't really care. That's your opinion. You're entitled to it. But I would hope that anybody that, is going to obviously talk shit, at least gives me an opportunity to do these couple of songs and a tour, and at least do what the band wants to be done, right? At least acknowledge and respect the band's wishes of how it wants to make music for this very brief moment in time. That would be my hope. Obviously, that's going to be very that's going to fall on a lot of deaf ears. But there's also, despite what some of those haters would say, there is a lot of there's a non-zero amount of people that would be excited to see this happen. I've gotten a lot of messages about it. Obviously there's people who want Johnny, there's people who want Kurt, and there's room for those collaborations. That's the thing. It's like the way that the band functions as a group right now, there's so much opportunity for collaborative vocalists on this thing, because in my opinion, we're the same band that we were in terms of instruments and vocals, minus Tilian, obviously. That it gives us a fresh perspective on trying new things with other people and seeing what works and what sticks. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think it's more about challenging the viewpoint, because the band has always been like, okay, it's controversy after controversy. The singer role is cursed. There's always this fucking revolving door of singers. Maybe if we can change the narrative around what it means to frontman Dance Gavin Dance and go, okay, well, John's always been here. John's the front man of the band in my mind. Like, John's always had the standout moments. John rarely gets complaints. Like, this guy's the front man in my mind, right? Let the man be the front man. The clean singer is a collaboration. It's given people things to talk about for 20 years. It's given people things to argue about for 20 years. And if you don't respect that, then that's your choice. You're free to not listen. Like to make the band your entire life is pretty fucking juvenile and stupid, in my opinion. Like, there's so many things in life to go and make your personality, including other bands. If you don't like it, don't listen.
Yeah.
We don't give a fuck. Like, we don't do it for that. We do it to make music with each other, and that's what makes us happy. And so I'm respecting the wishes of John, Will, and Matt in trying to keep the spirit of the band alive and make new music and collaborate with new artists. And so if you like that, come with us on the journey. If you don't like that, fuck you. I don't give a fuck. If you don't like that, fuck you, dude. I don't care. You know, I'm also done. Like, that's another thing is like, the whole scene is premised on like fearing your fans at this point, like being so scared of saying or doing any wrong move because someone's going to talk shit about you or make something up on the internet with no evidence. And it's like, okay, if that's the era that you want to live in, you're going to continue to see the scene be completely degraded into nothing, where there's only 4 or 5 bands that can sell tickets. Like, you know, there's only going to be 4 or 5. And then what? The second they slip up, they're done. Okay, well, enjoy having no scene, you stupid fucks. Like, enjoy. Go have fun. Like, I'm done placating to that. If you don't like my personality because of the way that I speak, I'm done not speaking honestly on these things. I would rather not have a career and still be honest than have a career and placate and censor and be a fucking dumbass. Like, that was something that drove Tim off the ledge, in my opinion, was he could not stand how this whole thing panned out, where he was just like, he didn't know how to navigate life in a lot of ways. And that's what made him turn to a lot of substances. And it was crushing for me to watch. You know, if you could treat me like a human for 2 seconds and put yourself in my shoes, where you watch your friends literally kill themselves over this shit, I think you would do the same. You know, I would argue that you would do the same, and you'd say, okay, well, yeah, I'm done censoring and placating and not talking about how the industry is completely fucked from the ground up. Like, I'm going to speak out on that shit. And if it causes me problems, so be it. Let them come.